And away we go. So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Wherever you happen to be in the world today, welcome one and all to Coffee Talk. That is right, it is time. Time for Coffee Talk Live, where we will be having a discussion about what is going on in the world today, taking a look at some clips from the news and having a little bit of discussion in the live portion here. And of course, the live portion takes place on YouTube at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University. You can find me on both channels, simultaneously broadcasting at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday, as well as at Coffee Talk Chat on X, formerly known as Twitter, if you wanted to look for me there, and fistfulofradio.com, podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon as we get ready to wind it up and see what is going on. And of course, I do try to read through as many of the comments as is reasonable in the live portion so that those of you who are listening and not able to see can keep up with the conversation. And I'll go ahead and acknowledge some of those people now. I see Donna Beaver is here reminding people thumbs up, like, and share. Yes, please do if you don't mind. The rumor is, of course, it helps with the algorithm. I think that's a load of crap, but I appreciate it. And that's all that matters. Helter is here. Dragon is here, Cyberjack Senior, Fluke Man, Brian, and Donna wants us to know that she got her notification at 1:59 today. Well, we'll see when I get mine. As many of you are aware, I am subscribed to myself so that I can test that. Yesterday, I didn't get it. And Gary Smith is here. Glad you could make it today. Glad everybody who was able to chime in thus far and say hello. If you don't want to, that's no big deal. Appreciate you coming anyways as we get ready to dive in and see what is going on in the world today. And there's a lot talking about what is going on down south. And of course, that would be the border problems again as we get ready to unfold what's going on out here. And as you might recall, we read the story a while back about a couple of riots that took place at the border and gates being rushed and people being hurt and National Guard being trampled. Well, apparently those people are going to get a pass. USA Today article as we get ready to open this up. USA Today article talking about the people who were arrested at the border dismisses border riot and charges against 140 migrants. I guess they're going to cut them loose. And here you see the fire, the destroyed fence, and the lines of people. A county court dismissed 140 cases against migrants charged in an April 12th riot at the U.S.-Mexico border after determining there was no probable cause for their arrests. County court, how about illegally entering the country? Oh, I'm sorry, we can't detain people for that anymore. County Court at Law 7, Judge Ruben Morales dismissed the 140 cases during a hearing on Monday, April 22nd, after ruling Texas Department of Public Safety state troopers failed to provide probable cause for the mass arrest. After reviewing the affidavit, I don't believe that probable cause exists, Morales said during the hearing. I don't believe there is probable cause for these individuals to continue to be detained for the offense of riot participation. The migrants will now be released from state custody. However, all 140 migrants are still facing federal charges of illegally entering into the U.S. and will be turned over to federal custody. The dismissal does not mean that migrants can't be charged with riot participation later. The El Paso District Attorney's Office can still indict them on those charges. If they can still be indicted on the charges, what's the point of throwing them out of court? El Paso District's Attorney's Office officials could not immediately be reached for comment. And there's another shot of what was going on there, if you can see it. And this is pretty much what it looks like down there every day now. Every day that we are completely overrun at our borders because they are no longer secure because of Biden signing the executive order on the first day of office, making it so that Border Patrol could no longer remove and repatriate these people as they come through. And we went again from 800 border crossings a day to 8,000, practically overnight. Quote, this is one step, El Paso County Public Defender Kelly Childress said after the hearing. Can the DA go back and indict them now? Sure, but I will hope they will have the integrity to explain to a grand jury what probable cause means and the fact that the judge found there was none. Oh, really? That simple, huh? Two other cases related to April 12th encounter between migrants and Governor Greg Abbott's Operation Lone Star Forces were not dismissed because one of the suspects is already in federal custody and the other is charged with criminal mischief, not riot participation. Well, you know, we got a lot of people from January 6th that are sitting in jail still for riot participation. But if you're crossing the border, I guess it's no big deal. No big deal. Now I'll catch up a couple of the comments here really quick. Monkey says they got a new phone. It shouldn't lag like crazy on their end. Hopefully not. And he said it's nothing expensive for Motorola. Always get the cheap phone. Don't. I'm not one of those like iPhone people. Oh, $1,800 for a phone? No problem. I don't think so. Fluke Man says Alec Baldwin got harassed by pro-Palestinian supporter, and Eric Adams also got harassed on a plane for his poor leadership. Eric Adams is getting confronted all over the place, as is the mayor of Chicago. They're being harassed at every turn because people are fed up with them. They still are in office and will continue to do so. But what are you going to do? And Brian says, did you get the $10 on the live stream on Monday? Just curious. I don't know. I do not know, Brian. I don't recall, because usually I call it out, don't I? If and I don't remember if something came through on Monday. And there's Urban Angst, as well as Boogers. And Urban suggests that Judge Morales is a traitor for hire, but who hired them? And Helter says processing 140 illegals would cost $490,000. Federal government is keeping them, so taxpayers are still on the hook, and that cost will most likely double. Incredible. Processing them would be cheaper than letting them come into the country and taking care of their room and board, paying for their food and clothes and shelter and medical and school. It'd be cheaper than that. And Brian says ScrewTube probably hid the comment. That's possible. And Cougar is here, wants to know how Dusty is. Dusty is fine. Dusty is not in the room. I don't have any felines in the room currently. But Dusty is doing well. All of the cats are doing well. Well, Hobo had some blood on him this morning when I checked on them outside. Hobo had some blood on him. He apparently had been in a fight. He didn't look bad though. Just his one of his forelegs was cut, but I took care of him. But yeah, Dusty is fine. Don't think I've seen you chime in a while, Cougar. But we're still on the illegal immigrant bandwagon here, but now we're going to Martha's Vineyard, and this has been suggested to be a big story. They're hammering this one. I've been seeing this story popping up in the feeds a lot, and a nothing story. It's not that big of a deal, and you'll see why when I read through this. But for some reason, they're making a big deal out of it. Probably so they can garner support for their that were taking immigrants flown to Martha's Vineyard by DeSantis qualify for crime victim visas. Oh my. So it was a crime for DeSantis, that would be Florida, to fly migrants to Martha's Vineyard. And so they're victims of some kind of a crime now. Is that the idea? And that's what's being suggested. But listen to what the article says, because I haven't read this particular one, but I've been seeing this one popping up in a lot of the feeds. It said some of the illegal immigrants that Florida Governor Ron DeSantis flew to Martha's Vineyard in September of 2022 now qualify for crime victim visas. Why is there even such a thing as that? That sounds like bullshit. That sounds like something you'd read in a comic book. Allowing them to legally work in the U.S. They won't find work, but they can legally work here. At least 3 of the 49 immigrants applied for U visas last year, claiming to be victims of a crime. They alleged DeSantis and other Florida officials tricked them into taking part in the flight operation 2 years ago with false promises of work and housing. The 2 charter flights took off from San Antonio, Texas, and made a pit stop in Florida before reaching their final destination at Martha's Vineyard, an island off the coast of Massachusetts. Immigration attorney Rachel Self said 3 of the original group of 49 Venezuelan nationals received bona fide determinations for the U visa applications, meaning they can find jobs and stay in the U.S. without being deported while waiting for their special visas to come through. These determinations are one step closer to justice, Self told the Boston Globe this week. They further underscore that anyone who knows all the facts simply cannot ignore the criminality of the actors. More determinations will likely be issued since all 49 immigrants were caught up in the same scheme, she added. National Review contacted DeSantis' communications office for comment. Immediately after the migrant flights, DeSantis took credit for the taxpayer-funded operation. His decision sparked outrage from Democratic lawmakers and caused the Martha's Vineyard Chamber of Commerce to declare a humanitarian crisis. Okay, there's a lot to be unpacked out of this article as we read through this. The whole thing is ridiculous. First of all, they tell you that the illegals flown to Martha's Vineyard by DeSantis qualify for crime victim visas or U visas. All right. Then you find it's only 3 people. Why is this being pounded into the news by multiple news outlets? It's 3 damn people. Secondly, the reason that they're really upset is that they didn't want migrants in Martha's Vineyard. We don't want migrants up here. Keep that in them grubby states like New York and Colorado. Let them deal with it. Send them to San Francisco. We're too hoity-toity out here. Thirdly, Martha's Vineyard's Chamber of Commerce declares a humanitarian crisis because 49 people got off a plane. Are you kidding? 49 people got off a plane. Oh my God! What are we going to do? We need more federal dollars. Somebody pay us quickly. And then they act like DeSantis personally did this. Like DeSantis was hanging, hey man, you don't want to get off in Florida. You want to get on this other charter flight, go to Martha's Vineyard. That's where the action is, brother. like that's hanging around. Like that's happening. This is what's being implied here. And Delo says, what did I miss? I'll listen to the replay. Yes, please do listen to the replay. And Dragon says, yet Americans who are the real victims of illegal immigration don't get any kind of visa. We just get to pay their bills. And that's the bottom line here. That's the bottom line here. Florida is getting a lot of them. Florida's getting a lot of them, and they don't want to deal with it any more than anyone else. Why should they have to? It's being forced on us. It's being forced on us by the current administration. They created a problem, and they're not even half-assed pretending to solve it. Not hardly. It doesn't make any sense. Not even trying. Well, they tried to pretend to solve it with their Ukrainian aid package. Their 100, if I remember correctly, what was it, $113 billion originally. but 68 of it was going to the Ukraine, and like 1.5 billion was going to go to the border, and that was supposed to be Biden's solution to his problem that their administration created, that the executive branch is responsible for. And still hasn't been resolved. It still has not been resolved. This is not going to get resolved until the current administration is removed. And it almost has, you know, and I'm not sitting here waving the MAGA flag, but it really kind of makes you want to have Trump win so he can start deporting people and doing what the Border Patrol used to do, repatriating these people back to where the hell they came from in the first place. It's cheaper in the long run. And I'll keep sticking by that. It's cheaper in the long run than caring for all their needs and having them contribute nothing. And then we want to give them work visas, and there are really not enough jobs. I don't know what the hell they're crying about. We saw this in the article we were reading about California yesterday when they were having their crisis about unemployment because they are $55 billion in the hole with no real explanation as to how that happened with their unemployment insurance in the state of California. It's like they have a $55 billion deficit and they don't even know where the money went. According to them, they don't know where the money went. And they're estimating that they're going to owe more because they anticipate 930,000, damn near a million people going to be claiming unemployment in the next cycle. So if you have almost a million people on unemployment, that means you don't have enough jobs. But we need to bring more immigrants in because there isn't enough people to go around for the work. That does not fit. It doesn't make sense. But that's the spin that we're being spoon-fed by the media and by activists and by politicians. And Justin Case is here. Glad you could make it. Monkey says there was a video where someone recorded Congress waving the Ukrainian flag, and the Republican House leadership, Johnson, told the person that recorded it to delete the footage. This was after House Congress voted in favor of the military bill to Ukraine. Yeah, and I saw that. They had the Ukrainian flag that that they flouted at that event. And it's like, and we're not in the Cold War anymore. We're not in the Cold War. What Reagan was doing, funneling money to Afghanistan during the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union's invasion of Afghanistan, was a different animal. His plan was to keep the Soviet Union tied up so long that they would go bankrupt. And that's what happened. The Soviet Union eventually went bankrupt, and it caused a big shift in leadership in that country. It changed things permanently. It changed their landscape and brought them out of primary communist influence, as it were. So, yeah, I can understand what Reagan was doing. A shady, pretty shady, but I get that. But this is just blatant throwing money into a war that we're not directly connected with. That there's a lot of suspicion as to why the current executive office is even involved. There's a lot of suspicion about that because there's a lot of suspicion about the Biden family's ties to Ukrainian businesses and shady deals and other things that may have went on. Just like there's a lot of suspicion about Hunter Biden and his paintings. And we read the articles about that because that's been on trial, talking about how, like, many of the people who purchased some of the more expensive paintings from Hunter Biden, which, by the way, are not very good, are now working in the executive branch of the government. So it's like they kind of bought themselves a job. You could make that argument. Can't prove it because no one's willing to thoroughly investigate that, but what are you going to do? Monkey wants to know, do we see the judge for the kangaroo court for Trump's trial as a joke? And I feel Trump's lawyer and Trump himself have to know it's all against him. Of course they know. Again, when has anyone ever been brought to court over hush money? And it wasn't that they violated the non-disclosure agreement. If you violate your non-disclosure agreement, you may be sued. But the writers of that agreement, if they held to their contract, it's unheard of to go to court. And I'll put it to you again, why isn't Bill Clinton in the same hot water? He's done the exact same thing with women he's had affairs with. The last one was paid $800,000, if I remember correctly, from that article. And we're gonna cascade into another article, very different from this, from what we've been talking about with border patrols and all of this other nonsense that's been going on here. This is a creepy one, and this is from The Hill, wrote this article, and it's talking about AI. All right. Artificial intelligence. And you all have seen, I've done a few stories on this. I've read a few. Hi, Miss Kitty. If Cougar is still here, this is not Dusty, but this is Miss Kitty. She's usually nowhere to be found this time of day. Come on, dear. Nice to see you, dear. Poor Miss Kitty. Poor Miss Kitty. She's so misunderstood. But we've seen where these AI generators are really kind of creepy and dangerous, where, for example, they won't make white people at all, to the point where people have been trying to get them to generate Nazis, and you end up with black Nazis or Native Indian Nazis, or George Washington. Show me a portrait of George Washington and he's black. He looks like he's from Nigeria. He's so dark. This is worse than that. And Chillin' Dave is here. Glad you could make it. And Justice said hello to Miss Kitty. Well, she's walked out of the room now, but that's okay. This is getting worse. And again, this is a Hill article. Wait for this to pop up here. Hopefully it won't skip. Can I even read this? An AI-generated child inappropriate photos, shall we say, threatens to overwhelm reporting system. Wait till you hear this one. And this is another one that's flying under the radar. This is not an article you're going to find easily, but it's something that needs to be seen. It really does, as weird as it is. So child photos generated by artificial intelligence could overwhelm already inundated reporting systems for online child abuse material. I'm skipping a couple of words there on purpose. A new report from the Stanford Internet Observatory found. The cyber tip line, which is run by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, processes and shares reports of child abuse material with relevant law enforcement for further investigation. Okay, they're a watchdog group to look out for inappropriate photographs of children so that they can report it to be investigated. Open source generative AI models that can be retained to produce material threaten to flood cyber tip line and downstream law enforcement with millions of images. 1 million unique images reported due to AI generation of child abuse material is unimaginable with NCMEC's current technology and procedures. With the capacity for individuals to use AI models to create child abuse material, there is concern that reports of such content potentially indistinguishable from real photos of children may divert law enforcement's attention away from actual children in need of rescue. Problem basically is that AI will make this stuff for you if you ask it. And it confuses their system, and their system is getting overwhelmed because it can't tell the difference between an artificially generated image and a real one. At least not offhand. Somebody's got to look at it, and there's not enough eyes to go around. And another interesting aspect is, in theory, until the law changes, and I'm sure someone will get around to it, this isn't illegal. It's not illegal because it's not real. It's computer-generated images. And where I have the problem, as I already alluded to before I even started reading this, you can't get these AI generators to make a white person. They'll give you a portrait of a black George Washington, a black Abraham Lincoln, black Nazis. But it will make this stuff. No problem with that. No problem with that. Quote, "The Wicked Witch, what a world. What a world." Unbelievable. Chillin says, hatred for Israel is pathetic. If Cuba attacked Florida, what would we have done? And Nature Nerd says, ticked off how Congress was flying Ukraine flags instead of American flags. They are not loyal to America as they bash it and then pass funding bills for other countries, neglecting the border. Yeah, and I've talked about things similar to that too. If you look in Congress and you look at their offices, you can find pictures online from in front of their office doors. And there was that one, I can't think of her name off the top of my head, that one representative's office where she has like a Palestinian flag and a gay flag out in front of her office door. There's no American flag there. And it's like, you know what? Go to Palestine and be gay then. How about that? You know, if you're here, you're representing American people. Enough. That shouldn't be allowed, and that person shouldn't be reelected. Dragon says the only way this would overwhelm the internet is when authoritarian governments seize control of everything in order to prevent it. And Helter said it's a pretty transparent attempt to get AI out of the hands of users and into the executive hands of state and corporate actors, which is a recipe for real dystopia. And Cruising says AI will make the inhumane gross crap, but it won't make a white person. Now, will it make a white child for the photos? That's a good question. I haven't seen any images like that. Not my cup of tea, obviously. And they don't show any here, and I'm glad they don't, because I don't want to see that. But it's disturbing that these AI generators be willing to do it in the first place. That's perfectly acceptable. And that was one of the complaints against, what was it, Gemini, and the other one that Google put out, when people asked it questions like, is it appropriate for someone to have a physical relationship with an underage person? And the AI generation response is, people can't help who they love. That's an inappropriate response. That's unacceptable. And Chillin says AI will rule because real intelligence is extinct. Well, that's why everything is smart now. Your smart TV, smartphone, smart oven, smart garage door opener, whatever you got, smart vacuum cleaner. Everything else is smart because the people are stupid. And Brian says maybe the black Nazis will be in the next Wolfenstein game. Yeah, there you go. And Fluke Man says the black Nazis were inaccurate. They did have any of the Nazi symbols. That's because when it comes to symbols and numbers and letters, AI can't do that accurately. I don't know if you ever noticed that. Whenever it does, someone else has to go in and put words in. If AI does it, it's like a dream. And I talked about that way back when this was first starting to get popular. It's like AI is dreaming, because most people, when they dream, are incapable of reading. I don't know if you ever noticed that. You can't read in a dream. That's a good way to wake yourself up. If you're not sure if you're dreaming, if there's a book, try to read it. You can't. Most people can't. There are some who can, but it's rare. So to me, it looks like the AI model is dreaming, because it can't formulate words or numbers in a proper sequence, as well as symbols. It screws those up as well. So then that begs the question, what happens when this shit wakes up? What happens when AI wakes up? And Chillin says from the squad, yeah, she was a squad member. I just can't remember which one, that had the Palestinian and the gay flag in front of her office. 115 says, wouldn't the AI have to get sourced for material somewhere? Yeah, but it can reach out and find it probably easier than you. If you were looking for something like that, if you were searching for something like that, you probably couldn't find it easily. Oh, I got my prompt. What are we, 31 minutes and 22 seconds in? I am live. Thank you, ScrewTube, for letting me know. 31 minutes and 22 seconds in, I got my prompt telling me I'm live. Much appreciated. If I was searching for something like that, I'd have to go down some deep rabbit holes, I'm sure. AI will find it because it's already in this system. But yeah, I need source material. And Justin K says their work already started using AI to pick out keywords in our notes to help. Oh, that's got to be irritating. And Monkey says, Ilham Omar, thank you, is the person whose office I was talking about. Cruising says, not sure if the AI generated stuff or the real dolls made in those images are sicker. They do those like that? I've heard of, I know what the real doll is. It's like a mannequin that's designed to simulate a woman. A mannequin that's supposed to simulate a woman. It's like the next generation blow up doll, right? They make those like that. That's creepy. That's even more creepy than the real dolls. And Sven says, I'll try that right now. Nope, I must be awake. Damn it. Yeah. And Nature Nerd says, stupid how we have a border where 10 million people cross it illegally, and our Congress is most concerned with banning TikTok, which is a slippery slope for free speech. True. And Brian says, is it true the swastika is an Indian symbol of Buddhism? And it's like 3,500 years old. And the Nazi, if I remember correctly, it loosely means unity. And that's why the Nazis hijacked the symbol, as well as the eagle standard from the Roman Empire, the big eagle standard, that they use the eagle quite a bit. And, you know, if you're erasing history and you took over the whole world, then you could sit there and say, yeah, see, 2,000 years ago, Rome, that was us. 3,500 years ago, Asia, that was us. Who would know the difference when you rewrite history? Which was alluded to in 1984, because that's what dude's job was to rewrite things for the Ministry of Truth. But yeah, it's a very old symbol, and it's still used in Asia today. They don't have a problem with it. It's just us. It's just people in the Western world that have an issue with it. That's why there was some controversy in the 90s with the original Pokemon cards, because on some of the Pokemon cards, that symbol is there. They don't call it a swastika. I forget what they call it. They call it something else. But the symbol was on some of the original Pokemon cards, and people were like, oh my God, it's a swastika on Pokemon. And, you know, the company that was producing those cards was like, no, it's not. What are you people, stupid? Anyways, they had to make a separate second set to start sending to the US, and then keep their own Japanese versions in Asia so that Westerners wouldn't be offended. So there you go. There you go. Now I'm going to try to get this to work. There's a little bit of a video clip on here, and hopefully it will play without incident, because I would like to show it to you, because I just want to make a point of what happens in this particular video clip. And it's basically somebody messing around with a laser pointer. They're messing around with a laser pointer. You can't get away with anything. I'm going to leave the audio off, and I'm going to attempt to play this clip. And it comes with a dire warning. Folks, you can't get away with nothing fast. Of surveillance where there are cameras and even microphones freaking everywhere. I'm going to read a couple more comments here really quickly. And this video clip is courtesy the Independent, and it comes from the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office, and it's helicopter footage. A couple more comments really quick. Monkey says, even YouTube won't let me say her name. Yeah, I know, huh? You're going to get in trouble. And Chillin says, pray for the kids. Look at that crap they have inherited. I know. And Cruising says, did you see the story out of California where school boys made AI-generated nudes of their classmates? Boys are sex offenders now, and the girls are victims. Really? No, I don't think I've seen that. He says, you can see the swastika in Indian ruins that are thousands of years old. Aryan also typically refers to the theory that a group of pale people who took over the northern India in the BCs. And Flukeman says there are apps only has female characters designed to be attractive and do whatever you want. So basically a girlfriend in your phone. That's sad, pathetic, and stupid. Yeah, that's where you get all these incels too. They love that kind of stuff because they're afraid to interact. And Monkey asking about TikTok being banned. I've heard that. They're pushing for it. They're pushing for it hard. And Raccoon says swastika symbol is good luck in some cultures. And Chillin' Dave has to go. Well, glad you could pop in today. But yeah, it's linked to Buddhism and Hinduism as well, I believe. And that's probably why you might see it in India. But it's ancient symbol, just hijacked. But I've got this clip pulled up. I'm going to go ahead and run it. I think I can run it with the audio. It'll be all right. Go ahead and run this clip. Hopefully it'll work properly, and I'll explain it here in a moment for those of you who can't.
10-4.
What happens? You saw that flash? Green flash? Now look what they do.
I have a subject
See
on
that?
7th Street Northwest and 15th Ave Northwest who keeps hitting us with a green laser. Get up and get somebody on this gentleman. He keeps blinding our pilot. Yep, that's him right there in front of you.
Where's your
Did you see that?
laser at? In your pants pocket?
No, bro, just lift it up, bro. Lift on my jacket.
You know why you're in the back of a car in handcuffs?
Yeah,
Why?
because I put a flashlight on the helicopter.
Okay.
I know the police helicopter is.
It was.
10-4.
Now they're going to play it again. You see that green flash? Their camera catches it,
I have a subject on 7th Street.
and bam, they got him. That fast. That much of a close-up from that distance.
Street Northwest and 15th Ave
They've got him in
Northwest who
infrared.
keeps hitting us with a green laser.
Walking
Get
right
up
there.
and get somebody on this gentleman.
Called for a squad car that might be in the area, and they pulled around and grabbed him that fast. That fast. And just think about that. How quickly they found him. How they were able to zoom in on him from that helicopter that quick. Picked him out from between those houses. Closed right up on him so that they could follow the figure. The computer tracked his movement. Told the pilot exactly where he was. Corner of this street and that street. Can we get a black and white over there? A car pulls up. I'm not sure how long the transition was, but it didn't look like he got halfway down the block before a a police SUV pulled up on him. He was a teenager, by the way, and he got arrested. It says 13-year-old. Arrested for obstructing air traffic. Arrested for obstructing air traffic. But I'm fascinated by how quickly the technology in the helicopter was able to grab him, lock onto him, follow him through the neighborhood so that he could be picked up. That fast. And Cruising says, and yet they can't find enough evidence to prosecute Hunter and the big guy. Nope. Nope. Can't do it. It's Sven says to teach behavior, reward, and punishment should be as close to immediate as possible. But any other time anything happens, they got nothing. Interfere with a police helicopter, you're screwed. And he says, I didn't know it was a police helicopter. Well, you shouldn't do that to any helicopter. It can be dangerous, actually. That can be dangerous. But can you imagine if anything else had been going on? Do you believe you would have gotten that kind of police response? Also, it shows what they're capable of if they really want to get you. If they really wanted you, especially with all the technology and drones and how all of these services are linked together. If they really want you, they can get you quick. No matter where you are, they'll find you and they'll grab you. If they want to. This is just fascinating to me how quickly that went down. And I'm glad the video clip played for those of you who could see. But any other time, you get problems. Nobody saw anything. Nobody knows anything. Video footage is no good. Blah, 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 blah. And Cruising says the sheriff's police department here using drone surveillance to ID speeders on the bridges and roads at night here rather than sending out the helicopter. Then they radio out the patrol cars like this. Yeah. And with drones, that's going to get easier and easier to do, to observe. And you won't know they're there. At least the helicopter, you can hear it. If a drone is up high enough, you don't hear it. It depending upon how big it is. The larger the drone, the more noise it makes. Smaller drones don't make that much noise, and they can be used to spy on you. And then you have, of course, there's cameras everywhere. Some states are worse than others. Chicago is really bad. Illinois, with all the traffic cameras and stuff. And many of those cameras in many states also have audio surveillance. And a lot of people are not aware of that they are listening to you as well as watching. A lot of people are not aware of that. So that's something to consider. You're being spied on all the time. And those regulations and laws get passed and they slip under the radar. They're mixed in with some other package. People are never aware of it. They don't know. They don't know there's cameras up there. They don't know there's drones. They don't know that those cameras may also be listening to them. It's one of the things I warn about with like the Ring doorbell, that many of these doorbell companies, they have like a community pooling connected to exterior cameras. And it's part of a system that is connected with local police departments, whereby because you're automatically enrolled, unless you opt out, they can access those cameras from the police department without your knowledge or consent. So I would check if you have those types of services. I would check to see if they have a disclosure in their contract about publicly sharing with law enforcement and then opting out. Otherwise, they can just turn your cameras on and look whenever the hell they want without telling you anything. That's how and this was a couple of years ago, I've mentioned it before, can't remember his name. He was a football player that got in trouble. He was out in front of his house and having a conversation, and they just happened to be watching him on his Ring doorbell. And he did something, I can't remember what it was, if it was a drug sale or something like that. And they arrested him. And Robert says, Harris Corp makes these cameras. A lot of this tech is being sent to Ukraine. We pay for all of this. And he says it's the Cell Sites Simulator Warrant Act of 2023. And that's also the main reason for 5G, something I've brought up before, that, they kind of bogarted everybody, made them believe that 5G was going to make them be able to stream basketball games to their phone better or whatever. The real purpose behind 5G is to better coordinate drone traffic. And that's evident if you watch any videos about drones, which I've watched several and even played a few on here in the past, drones for like making things like this. It tells you in the video in their disclaimer that that's thanks to 5G technology. 5G technology is for orchestrating. The phone does not work better. The phone does not work better since 5G. If anything, it's more screwed up. I've had more problems with it. And Fluke Man says it's like Will Smith, Gene Hackman movie Enemy of the State. Only difference now, the technology is more advanced and more of it. And that's the second time Gene Hackman was in a film like that. I don't remember the first one. I don't remember the name of it, but the surveillance game, and he would hide microphones, people's homes, and things like that. Local story. Going to do Atlanta. Something local, if it's going to open up properly, because Restream is acting a little funny just now, so hopefully I'm not being interrupted. Hopefully I'm not being interrupted here. I'll try to pause that because I don't want to see that. And this is a WSB TV News Atlanta article about a raid at Fulton County. A raid at Fulton County. And Carrick is here. Glad you could make it. Thanks for joining us today. And I'll see if I can get this to open without a hiccup. Hopefully I don't have too much of an issue. Again, Restream has been a little funny. And I do try. I got to do another out some more. Anytime now, Restream. Let's go. And it says connection lost. Yeah, right. Raid at Fulton Jail. Drugs, shanks, phone, more seized. Sheriff's office believes that drones are involved. So let's blame drones. Blame drones for the traffic. Are we flowing? Video is not being interrupted, because that's just frustrating. Get up. And Brian, I'm trying here. Here we go. Brian made a donation to the channel. He says, my gratitude. No, I'm the one that's grateful, Brian. Thank you for helping the channel out. Always appreciated. As we try to if I can get it to work properly. Fulton County Sheriff's Office confiscated drugs, tobacco, shanks, a makeshift hatchet, and a bullet during a recent raid at the Fulton County Jail. Bullets are no good without a gun. Channel 2 investigative report. Winnie spoke with the Sheriff's Office about the raid and how they believe some of those items got into the hands of inmates. Other seized were cell phones, which can sell for thousands of dollars inside jail, Where do you get thousands of dollars in jail? Sheriff Pat Labatt, he got picked on a lot at school. He believes drones were used to get those items into the jail. No, it's not the guards smuggling it in and doing a little side deal. It's drones. Labatt said the Fulton County Sheriff's Office jail strike team struck a vein of contraband quickly in the first zone they hit on the high security 7th floor of the jail. Before Saturday morning was done, men and women normally assigned not just to the jail but to the courthouse and across the sheriff's office, who had in the early morning darkness had amassed a massive amount of dangerous material inmates aren't supposed but did. Natalie Ammons, the Fulton County Sheriff's Office, said over a half dozen suspected crack pipes were taken from inside the jail. The Sheriff's Office said the shakedown turned up 22 illegal cell phones, suspected marijuana. How do you suspect it's marijuana? It is or it isn't. Tobacco, plenty of pills, and a bottle labeled as the prescription drug promethazine. The Sheriff's Office said the shakedown turned up. I read that. It skipped. And then weapons. Shanks made the building. Most of the weapons were stripped out of the building, from plane shafts to light fixtures. It says that the inmates also used exposed wires and light fixtures to start fires and melt holes in plastic windows of this so they can access contraband that they delivered to them by drone. We got a drone delivery at the prison. Oh my God. Robert says DHS were using this over Harvard and MIT those 2 days using NA on their helicopter. And Dragon says drones my butt. Either one, the guards are doing nothing, or two, they're bringing the contraband in themselves, or number three, both. Yeah, that would be my guess. And then Cruising says the drones are dropping baggies of oregano, apparently, if it's suspected pot. They don't know if it's, if it's marijuana or not. That stuff's already been tested. I'm going to close the window because it's acting really buggy. I don't want any interruptions from Restream because Restream gets enough. Yesterday was pretty smooth, but I don't like it when it has hiccups because it gives a bad presentation. But apparently, are you sure if they did melt holes in the windows? First of all, that's something that regular checks should have caught, because you'd need a pretty big damn hole in the plastic for anything to be passed through. If there's a drone hovering out there, you've got to be able to get your arm through and out into the open to take whatever it is off the drone. Okay? And it can't be a small drone, because something as heavy as a cell phone, the majority of those little observation drones and things that you get at like Best Buy or whatever can't handle the weight. It'd have to be a pretty big damn drone. I think somebody would see it. Okay? Pretty sure someone would see it if they were delivering a cell phone that way. I mean, seriously. I visited a prison once, and it was in West Virginia. Okay, this is a long time ago. And they happened to be doing one of those things at that jail at that time. And this was like on a Saturday, I think. And what they were doing was trying to search everybody who came in, because they were looking for contraband. And there was an army of law enforcement. They had ATF, FBI, the sheriff's office, state police. There must have been 50 people from law enforcement out there with vans and trucks and all kinds of crap. And they had dogs, and they had people standing there with their arms out with the dog walking around them. And they were going, find it, find it, find it. Didn't find anything. With visitors coming in to the jail, because they figured Saturday's going to be busy. Visitors coming into the jail. And what I found out after the fact is that nobody coming in on Visitors Day was found to have anything they shouldn't have. But that 5 guards got arrested that day for contraband. They had drugs on them. That tells you everything you need to know right there. Honestly. Fluke Man says, and the battery probably only lasts like 20 minutes. Yeah, on those small drones, they're not going to be able to support something like that. Brian says they went to prison for 13 years. You're talking about public school. So did I. No, I didn't go that long because I dropped out. I've mentioned that before. I dropped out and got a GED and went to work at a young age. Because even in junior high school, I knew that that public school was a waste of time. I wasn't learning anything. I didn't like it. It was miserable. It was in junior high school that I first started playing hooky. I didn't want to go to school. And in Boston, playing hooky in the winter is a project. It's freezing. I would rather be around in the streets in 13 to 5 inches of slush on the ground than be in school. Then you're not having a good experience. Not learning anything, getting in fights all the time. I don't want to be there. Teachers were mean, whatever. Pain in the ass. But yeah, don't get me started on public school. This, as we try to round off here, one last article. Says surge of Chinese immigrants crossing border triggers national security concerns. I think it's fascinating to me how many times do they regurgitate these stories. We read this story in October, if I remember correctly. October, we read this. This is a new article telling the same thing. This is only 22 hours old, this article, telling the same thing. Article reads, the number of Chinese citizens coming across the southern border from Mexico skyrocketed to the fastest growing demographic of illegal immigrants in recent months, triggering serious concerns among lawmakers in Washington. They should have been concerned with it 3 years ago. Tens of thousands of Chinese immigrants have been arrested by Border Patrol agents over the past year, far beyond the hundreds to a couple of thousand seen in recent history preceding the C virus pandemic. Why don't you just say preceding Biden signing that executive order in his first day in office? Don't blame the virus, because they didn't write the executive order tying the hands of Border Patrol. These people get arrested, but they're still being released into the interior of the United States. In 2022, fewer than 2,000 Chinese people were stopped at the southern boundary. In the first half of 2024, Border Patrol agents in the U.S.-Mexico border caught 24,214 Chinese illegal immigrants who had come into the country by walking through unfenced areas. This year is on track to see 48,000 Chinese migrants arrested by the year's end at the current rate. We talked about this months ago. Not new, but a problem, and it's a problem that's not being addressed. China doesn't let their people out that easily. As industrial as China acts, they're still communist. This should come as no surprise. And it's an alarm. It should set off alarms that we go from 2,000 to like 24,000 a year. Just like that. And that they're expecting 48,000 this year. And they should be deported. They should be sent back where they came from. Why the hell are they coming here? How'd they get here? Like I said, China, it's not that easy to get out of China. It's really not. Fluke Man says they hated sitting on their ass listening to teachers, but loved carpentry like lessons. Okay, yeah, because that's hands-on. And Cougar says at the Redneck High School of Blue Ridge, Georgia, the teachers would make money bets on school fights. Really? And Helter says this is China's Trojan horse to subvert the U.S. from within with spies and agents flooding the borders. It could be. It could be. A lot of Chinese citizens are very staunchly nationalist, dangerously so. But with that, I will go ahead and start wrapping things up as we are at the top of the hour. So I'm going to sign off. Again, this is Coffee Talk, and you can find Coffee Talk on YouTube at Coffee Talk Live and at Prepper University, simultaneously broadcasting on both channels if you wanted to join the live portion, Monday through Friday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as well as at Coffee Talk Dat on X, formerly known as Twitter, if you wanted to look for me there, and fistfulofradio.com. Podcasting out of Atlanta Monday through Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and Friday at noon. Special thanks to Brian, who made a donation to the channel today. Always appreciated. Goes a long way towards helping out, especially with our shelter pets. And thanks again to everyone else who was able to join us here today. Hope you got something out of the conversation.